When you spend your life hiding, you forget what it feels like to be seen. Not the cruel, dismissive glances that slide over you like you're part of the furniture. Not the pitying looks that say, "Such a pretty face, if only." Real seeing, the kind that strips away pretense and finds something worth keeping underneath. Mira had stopped hoping for that kind of seeing 3 years ago. She'd learned to survive by becoming invisible, by retreating into shadows and screens where she could be anyone but herself, where the numbers on a scale didn't define her worth, where she could speak without her voice being drowned out by the whispers about her body. Tonight, standing at the entrance to the crystal ballroom where 200 unmated wolves had gathered for the annual mate ball, invisibility was no longer an option. Chapter 1. The grand doors opened and Mira's breath caught in her throat. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow fractals across marble floors. Elegant wolves in designer gowns and tailored suits moved through the space with the casual grace of those who belonged, who had never questioned whether they deserved to take up space in the world. Mira smoothed her hands over the emerald silk dress her sister had helped her choose. The fabric draped beautifully, the color bringing out the auburn in her hair and the green in her eyes. For one brief moment in her bedroom mirror, she'd felt almost pretty. That moment shattered the instant she stepped into the ballroom. "Is that Mira Thorne?" a voice whispered, not quietly enough. "I didn't think she'd actually come." "Someone should tell her this isn't a buffet," another voice snickered. Heat rushed to Mira's cheeks. She kept her gaze fixed forward, chin lifted despite the shame burning through her chest. She'd known this would happen, had prepared herself for the mockery. 3 years of anonymous texting with the most powerful alpha in the territory hadn't changed the fundamental truth of her existence. In a world of wolves who valued physical perfection, she would always be found wanting. "Mira!" Her sister Celine appeared at her elbow, resplendent in silver that matched her wolf's coat. "Ignore them. You look stunning." "I look exactly like what I am," Mira replied quietly, "the fat girl who doesn't belong here." "Stop it." Celine squeezed her hand. "You have every right to be here. This is the mate ball. The moon doesn't care about dress sizes." But the Alpha King might. The thought sent ice through Mira's veins. Somewhere in this glittering crowd was Kieran Blackthorn, the man she'd been texting for 3 years, the man who knew her mind, her heart, her soul, everything except what she looked like, the man who thought he'd been talking to someone else entirely. It had started so innocently. 3 years ago, Mira had been working late in the pack archives, cataloging ancient texts when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Is this the reference desk? I have a question about territorial law." She should have ignored it, should have directed him to proper channels. Instead, she'd answered. One question led to another. Late-night conversations about pack history and philosophy, shared jokes, and gradually deepening connection. By the time she realized she was talking to the Alpha King himself, his number carefully guarded, but somehow crossed with hers in a database error, it was too late. She was already in love with him. The problem was the photo. Early in their correspondence, he'd asked for a picture. Panicking, terrified he'd stop talking to her if he saw what she really looked like, Mira had sent a photo of Selene. Instead, her beautiful, slender, perfect sister who embodied everything an Alpha King's mate should be. "Aluna needs to address the gathering," Kieran had texted last week. "I want you there. Please, come to the mate ball. I'm ready to meet you in person." Mira had spent 72 hours in agony before making her decision. She could hide forever, living in the safety of text messages and false pretenses. Or she could face the truth, accept his inevitable rejection, and try to salvage whatever remained of her shattered heart. Hence, she stood in this ballroom, emerald silk and trembling courage, waiting for her world to end. "He's here," Celine whispered, tension threading her voice. The crowd parted instinctively, ancient wolf hierarchies asserting themselves. Alpha King Kieran Blackthorn entered through the main doors, and the very air seemed to shift in response to his presence. Mira had seen pictures, of course, had memorized every detail of his face during long nights of wishful thinking, but photographs hadn't captured the raw power that radiated from him the way his amber eyes, those eyes she'd dreamed about, seemed to glow with inner fire. He was tall, broad-shouldered, devastatingly handsome in a black suit that emphasized his warrior's build. He was everything she wasn't, everything she could never be. His gaze swept the room, clearly searching for someone, for her, for Celine's face in the crowd. Mira shrank back instinctively, pressing against the wall as if she could melt into the tapestries. She wasn't ready, would never be ready for the moment. He looked at her and saw not the woman he'd fallen in love with, but the disappointing reality she'd been hiding. Alpha King Kieran and the Master of Ceremonies announced, "Welcome to the 73rd Annual Mate Ball. As is tradition, you will begin the gathering with the first dance." Kieran's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He was frustrated, Mira realized. He'd expected to find his mystery woman immediately, to sweep her onto the dance floor and claim her before all these witnesses. "I'm looking for someone." Kieran's voice carried across the ballroom, deep and commanding. "A woman I've been corresponding with. She sent me her photo. She should be here tonight." He pulled out his phone, and Mira's heart stopped. He was showing people Celine's picture, asking if anyone had seen her. "That's Celine Thorne," someone said. "She's over there, but no." Mira's voice cracked as she pushed forward through the crowd. She couldn't let Celine take the blame for her deception, couldn't hide anymore. "No, that's my sister." The crowd fell silent. All eyes turned to Mira, and she felt every ounce of her body weight in that moment, every cruel comment and pitying glance, every diet that had failed and scale that had disappointed. Kieran's amber eyes locked onto her, confusion flashing across his perfect features. "I don't understand. Who are you?" "I'm Mira Thorne." Her voice emerged steadier than she felt. "I'm the one who's been texting you for 3 years. That picture? I sent you my sister's photo. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but I didn't think you'd... You catfished me?" The words cut like claws. His expression shifted from confusion to fury, a muscle ticking in his jaw. "For 3 years, you lied to me." Mira flinched but held her ground. "Yes." Whispers erupted around them. She could feel the judgment, the schadenfreude, the vicious satisfaction of those who'd always known she didn't belong in their world. "Of course she did," someone muttered. "Who else would want her?" "Can you imagine thinking the Alpha King would choose that?" Each word landed like a blow, but Mira kept her eyes on Kieran's face. She owed him that much, owed him the truth of her shame and the acknowledgement of her deception. Something flickered in his expression, hurt, betrayal, anger, all warring for dominance. Everything we talked about, every conversation, every late-night message, were those lies too? No. Tears pricked her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Everything I said was true. My thoughts, my feelings, She stopped herself before saying love. "The only thing I lied about was what I looked like." "That's not a small thing." His voice was low, dangerous. "I trusted you." "I know." Mira's hands clenched in her skirts. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'll leave now. I couldn't let you keep thinking it was Celine. She doesn't deserve to be caught up in my mess." She turned to go, dignity in tatters, but at least honest now, at least herself. Then Kieran inhaled sharply, froze completely. His nostrils flared, and his eyes widened with something that looked like shock. "Wait," he commanded, and despite everything, Mira's wolf responded to the alpha authority in his voice. She stopped, not turning around, not brave enough to see his face. "Your scent," he said slowly, as if testing the words. How did I not notice before?" Mira's heart hammered against her ribs. Scent was the one thing she couldn't fake, the biological marker that identified true mates in their world. She'd never been close enough to Kieran before tonight for him to catch it, had counted on the distance to protect her secret forever. "It's you," Kieran said, wonder creeping into his voice. "My mate, the one I've been searching for." The ballroom erupted in gasps and whispers. Mira turned slowly, hardly daring to breathe. Kieran was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. Shock, confusion, something that might have been recognition. "I don't understand," someone said. "He can't possibly—" "Enough." Kieran's command silenced the room instantly. He moved toward Mira with predatory grace, closing the distance between them until she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. This close, his scent overwhelmed her. Pine and winter storms. Power and something uniquely him that made her wolf whine with longing. "You're my mate," he repeated, quieter now, for her alone. "The moon doesn't make mistakes." "The moon clearly has a sense of humor," Mira whispered bitterly. "I'm sorry you got stuck with—" "Don't." His hand lifted as if to touch her face, then fell back to his side. Propriety, she realized. They were surrounded by witnesses, and he was still processing the revelation. "Don't apologize for what you are. You're angry that I lied. I am." He didn't deny it. "But I'm trying to understand why." Mira gestured to herself, to the room, to the whispers that hadn't quite died down. "Look at me. Really look at me. Would you have kept talking to me if I'd sent you my real picture?" The question hung in the air between them, sharp and brutal. Kieran's jaw worked, and something flickered in his eyes. Shame, perhaps, or recognition of an ugly truth. "I want to say yes," he admitted finally. "I want to believe I'm better than that. But I don't know. And that's—" He exhaled roughly. "That's its own kind of damning, isn't it?" The honesty surprised her. Mira had expected denials, pretty lies about inner beauty and personalities mattering more than appearances. Instead, Kieran was offering her something more valuable, the truth of his own uncertainty. "I need time," he said, "to process this, to understand what's real and what was." "An illusion," Mira finished for him. "I understand. I'll leave the pack if you want. Make it easier for you to—" "No." The word came out as a growl. His hand shot out, catching her wrist, and the contact sent electricity racing up her arm. "You're my mate. That means something, even if I don't fully understand what yet." "You're not leaving." "Then what do you want me to do?" Kieran's thumb brushed over her pulse point. Whether consciously or not, she couldn't tell. "Give me the truth from now on. No more hiding. And give me time to reconcile the woman I fell in love with through text messages with the woman standing in front of me." It was more than she deserved and less than she'd hoped for. Mira nodded, not trusting her voice. "But understand this," Kieran continued, his amber eyes intense. "I'm angry about the deception, hurt that you didn't trust me enough to show me who you really were. But the mate bond, that doesn't lie. Whatever happens next, we face it together." He released her wrist and stepped back, the absence of his touch like a physical ache. "I'm going to leave now. I suggest you do the same. This gathering is clearly no longer conducive to its intended purpose." As he walked away, the crowd parted for him again. Mira stood frozen, emotions warring in her chest, hope and despair, shame and defiance, fear and something that might have been the first glimmers of possibility. Celine appeared at her side, wrapping an arm around her waist. "Come on, let's get you home." But as Mira let her sister guide her from the ballroom, she couldn't help glancing back. Kieran stood in the doorway, and for just a moment, their eyes met. The fury was still there, the betrayal and confusion, but beneath it, like coals beneath ash, burned something else, something that made her wolf howl with recognition. Their story wasn't over. It had only just begun. Chapter 2. Mira didn't sleep that night. She lay in her bed, staring at her phone, watching the text thread with Kieran that had been silent since the ball. 3 years of daily messages, of good mornings and good nights, of shared thoughts and deepening intimacy, all of it now tainted by her deception. At 3:47 a.m., her phone buzzed. "I can't sleep." Kieran's message read. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, heart racing. "Neither can I." A long pause. Then, "My wolf is going crazy. He knows you're his mate, keeps pushing me to claim you. But my head, I keep seeing Celine's face in my mind when I read our old messages. It's disorienting." Mira closed her eyes against the pain of his words. "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." "Why did you do it? Really? Don't give me the surface answer about not thinking I'd talk to you. Go deeper." Her hands trembled as she typed. "Because for the first time in my life, someone saw me for who I am. Inside. You talked to me like I mattered. Like my thoughts were interesting and my opinions valuable. And I was terrified that if you saw my body, all of that would disappear. I'd just be the fat girl again, and you'd be too polite to stop responding. But I'd feel the shift, the loss of genuine interest. I couldn't bear it." The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "You robbed me of the chance to prove you wrong." The words hit like a punch. "You're right. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing and tell me something true, something real. Not an apology, not an excuse. Just truth." Mira stared at her phone, thinking. Then, "I'm scared. Not just of rejection, but of hope. Hope is more dangerous than despair, because when it shatters, the pieces cut deeper. I'm scared that even with the mate bond, you'll wish the moon had chosen differently." A longer pause this time. When his response came, it made her breath catch. "I'm scared too. Scared I'll hurt you because I can't let go of my anger fast enough. Scared I'll look at you and see the deception instead of the woman I fell for. But I'm also scared of losing you before I give us a real chance. My wolf won't survive it, and neither will I." Tears slipped down Mira's cheeks. "What do? We start over. Not from scratch. I can't unknow everything we shared. But we rebuild on honesty instead of illusion. Come to my office tomorrow, noon. We'll talk face to face, no screens to hide behind. Okay? And Mira, wear something comfortable, something that's completely you. No trying to be anyone else." She set down her phone, emotions tangled beyond sorting. He was giving her a chance. It was more than she deserved and everything she'd hoped for. Now she just had to be brave enough not to waste it. The Alpha King's office occupied the top floor of Blackthorn Tower, all glass and steel and commanding views of the Pack's territory. Mira had never been here before, had always worked in the basement archives where she could hide among ancient books and avoid social interaction. Kieran's assistant, a severe-looking woman named Diana, showed her to a sitting area. "He's finishing a call. He'll be with you shortly." Mira smoothed her hands over her jeans. Comfortable, well-worn denim that hugged her curves without trying to hide them. She'd paired them with a soft sweater in deep burgundy, and for once she'd left her hair down instead of pulling it back in its usual severe bun. This was her, unvarnished and unadorned. "Mira." Kieran's voice made her look up. He stood in the doorway of his office, still in a suit, but with his jacket removed and sleeves rolled up to reveal muscular forearms. Those amber eyes studied her, and she forced herself not to squirm under his gaze. "Come in." His office was surprisingly warm for such a modern space. Books lined one wall, history and philosophy, many of them titles they'd discussed in their messages. A coffee maker occupied a corner, and the massive desk held organized chaos. Files, tablets, a framed photo of what looked like his pack in wolf form. Coffee? He offered. I remember you take it with cream and 2 sugars. The detail made her throat tight. Yes, please. They sat across from each other in leather chairs by the windows, coffee cups warming their hands, an awkward silence stretching between them. This is strange, Kieran said finally. I know you so well in some ways, and not at all in others. You know the important parts, Mira offered. My favorite books, my terrible jokes, how I think about pack law and philosophy. The shape of my body doesn't change any of that. But it's part of who you are, he countered gently. And I missed 3 years of seeing you as a complete person. Mira set down her coffee cup, something defensive rising in her chest. Be honest with me, Kieran. If I'd sent you my real picture 3 years ago, would we be here now? Would you have invested all those hours talking to me? His jaw tightened. I want to say, don't tell me what you want to say. Tell me what's true. Silence stretched. Then Kieran exhaled roughly. I don't know, and that's the truth. I'd like to think I would have. The conversations we had, the connection we built, that was real. But I can't honestly say whether I would have given you the same chance if I'd seen your photo first. The honesty stung, but Mira appreciated it more than pretty lies. Thank you for not sugarcoating it. But here's the thing, Kieran continued, leaning forward. We're past that now. The mate bond changes everything. When I caught your scent last night, everything clicked into place. Every conversation we've had, every late-night confession, I could suddenly match it all to the real you. And the woman I see in front of me now is the woman I fell in love with through those texts. You fell in love with me? The words slipped out before Mira could stop them. His eyes met hers steadily. I did. I do. Even through my anger and hurt, that hasn't changed. It's just tangled up now in betrayal and confusion about what's real. It was all real, Mira whispered. Every word I sent you, every thought I shared. The only lie was the photo, which was a big lie, but his tone had softened. I need you to understand why it hurt so much. It wasn't about your appearance, it was about trust. I opened myself to you in ways I never have with anyone else. Told you things about the pressure of being Alpha King, about my fears and doubts, and the whole time you were hiding behind someone else's face. Mira nodded, throat tight. You're right. I betrayed your trust, and I understand if you can't forgive me. I didn't say I couldn't forgive you. Kieran set down his own coffee cup. I said I need time. There's a difference. He stood and moved to the windows, gazing out over the packlands. Mira watched his broad shoulders, the tension in his frame, and felt her wolf whine at the distance. Tell me about yourself, Kieran said without turning. Not the things we've already discussed. Tell me about being Mira Thorne in this body, in this world. Help me understand? Mira stood too, joining him at the window, but maintaining careful distance. What do you want to know? Everything. He glanced at her. Start with why you think your body defines you so completely. She laughed, but it held no humor. Because it's all anyone else sees. When I walk into a room, I don't get to be Mira the archivist, Mira the scholar, Mira the woman who can debate pack law for hours. I'm just the fat girl. Everything else becomes invisible. Not to me, Kieran said quietly. Even now, even with all my confusion, that's not all I see. What do you see? He turned to face her fully, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. I see a woman with fire-colored hair and eyes like mountain forests. I see intelligence and wit and a vulnerability you try to hide behind sarcasm. I see someone who loves words enough to catalog them for a living, who texts in complete sentences even when angry, who remembers obscure historical details that make me laugh. His voice dropped. And yes, I see curves and softness, but that's not a defect, Mira. It's just part of you. Part of my mate. Tears pricked her eyes. You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it to make you feel better. He moved closer, and her wolf nearly purred at his proximity. I'm saying it because it's true. I'm angry at the deception, hurt by the lack of trust, but I'm not disappointed in who you are. I'm just trying to merge 3 years of text messages with the woman standing in front of me. And how's that going? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Better than I expected. His hand lifted slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The contact sent electricity racing across her skin. Your scent is driving me crazy. My wolf wants to claim you right now, mark you for all the pack to see. Mira's pulse jumped. And what does the man want? The man wants to take this slowly, build something real that's not based on illusion or biology alone. His thumb brushed her cheek, and she couldn't suppress a shiver. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't affected by you, by this. He gestured between them, at the tension humming in the air. Kieran? Have dinner with me? He interrupted. Tonight, not as mates, not with expectations or pressure, just 2 people getting to know each other face to face. Hope bloomed in Mira's chest, fragile but persistent. Are you sure? The pack is already talking. If we're seen together, let them talk. His jaw set stubbornly. You're my mate. I'm not hiding you or pretending you don't exist, but I want to do this right. Court you properly. Earn your trust back. I'm the one who broke trust, she pointed out, and I'm the one who might have never given you a chance without the mate bond forcing my hand. His expression turned self-deprecating. We're both flawed, Mira. The question is whether we can build something honest anyway. She searched his face, looking for deception or pity, found only sincerity and a vulnerability that matched her own. Okay, she said. Dinner. Tonight. His smile transformed his face, reminding her of the playful side she'd come to know through their texts. Good. I'll pick you up at 7. And Mira, wear whatever makes you feel most like yourself. I'm done with pretending, from both of us. As she left his office, Mira's phone buzzed with a message from Kieran. Already counting the hours. Is that pathetic? She smiled, typing back. Only if it's pathetic that I am too. Maybe, just maybe, honesty could be the foundation they built on. Maybe truth, painful, vulnerable truth, could forge something stronger than the illusion she'd hidden behind for 3 years. Chapter 3, dinner became a nightly occurrence. Kieran would pick her up at 7, and they'd go somewhere quiet, small restaurants on the edge of pack territory, scenic overlooks where they could talk without being overheard, once even a midnight picnic under the stars. They talked about everything, not just the safe topics they'd covered in texts, but the harder truths they'd both been avoiding. Tell me about the worst day, Kieran said one evening as they sat by the lake, 3 weeks into their tentative courtship. Which worst day? Mira asked wryly. There have been many. The one that made you decide you weren't worth being seen. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I was 16. The Alpha's son, not you, the previous Alpha, asked me to the spring dance. I thought he actually liked me. Bought a new dress, did my hair, felt pretty for once. Her voice hardened. It was a prank. He and his friends had a bet going about who could take out the ugliest girl. When I arrived, they were all there, laughing. They recorded my reaction, played it at pack gatherings for months. Kieran's growl rumbled low and dangerous. Who? It doesn't matter. He's dead now anyway. Killed in the Alpha Challenge when you took power. It matters to me. She looked at him, saw the fury burning in his amber eyes. I'm not telling you so you'll avenge 16-year-old me. I'm telling you so you understand. That was the day I learned my body makes me a punchline. Everything else, my mind, my personality, becomes irrelevant in the face of it. That's not true, isn't it? She turned to face him fully. You said yourself you don't know if you would have given me a chance without the mate bond. That's not a criticism, Kieran. It's just reality. We live in a world that values certain things, and I don't fit the mold. Then the mold is wrong, he said fiercely. The pack that mocked you is wrong, and I'm working every day to be better than my own unconscious biases. I know. She softened. You show up, Kieran, every night, despite your anger and confusion. That means more than pretty words. He reached for her hand, and when she let him take it, something warm unfurled in her chest. Tell me about your best day. The day you first texted me, she admitted. I was alone in the archives, surrounded by books, convinced I'd spend my whole life invisible. Then my phone buzzed, and you asked me about territorial law like my opinion mattered, like I mattered. Kieran's thumb brushed over her knuckles. You did. You do. I'm starting to believe that. The physical tension between them grew with each passing day. Kieran was careful not to push, but Mira could see the desire in his eyes, feel it in the way his gaze lingered on her mouth, how his breathing changed when she moved too close. She wanted him too, wanted to close the distance, to feel his hands on her skin, to stop talking and just be together. But fear held her back, fear that once the novelty wore off, once the mate bond settled, he'd see her clearly and regret being tied to her forever. You're thinking too loud, Kieran murmured one evening as they sat on her porch swing, the late spring air warm and flower-scented. Sorry. Don't apologize. Just tell me what's going on in that brilliant mind. Mira hesitated, then decided on honesty. I'm scared that when this becomes physical, you'll realize you made a mistake, that the mate bond tricked you into wanting someone you wouldn't have chosen freely. Kieran was quiet for a moment. Then he stood and held out his hand. Come with me. She let him lead her inside, up the stairs to her bedroom. Her pulse raced, a mix of anticipation and terror. But instead of pulling her toward the bed, Kieran positioned her in front of the full-length mirror. He stood behind her, hands on her shoulders, meeting her eyes in the reflection. What do you see? He asked. I see. She stopped herself from the automatic self-deprecation. I see a woman who spent too much time hating her reflection. I see my mate. His hands slid down her arms, a light touch that made her shiver. I see curves that make my mouth water, soft skin I want to taste, eyes that challenge me, and a mouth I dream about kissing. His voice dropped to a husky whisper. I see the woman I fell in love with, and she's more beautiful than any photo could have captured. Kieran, let me finish. He pressed closer, and she could feel the heat of him against her back. You're right that I might not have pursued you without the mate bond. But you want to know something? I'm grateful for it. Grateful the moon pushed me past my own blindness to see what was always worth seeing. You didn't trick me, Mira. You saved me from my own stupidity. She turned in his arms, searching his face for insincerity. Found none. You mean that? I do. His hand cupped her cheek. And I'm going to prove it to you. Every single day for the rest of our lives, if that's what it takes. That's a long time. Not long enough, he murmured. And then finally he kissed her. It wasn't their first kiss. They'd shared a brief, tentative press of lips a week ago. But this was different. This was claiming and surrender all at once. Heat and tenderness. 3 years of longing poured into the slide of mouths and the press of bodies. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Kieran rested his forehead against hers. I want you, he said roughly. Want to take you to bed and show you exactly how beautiful I find you. But I won't until you believe me, until you trust that this isn't just biology or obligation. I'm getting there, Mira whispered. You make me want to trust, want to hope. Then that's enough for now. He pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. We have time. Chapter 4. The claiming ceremony was set for the full moon, 6 weeks after the disastrous mate ball. The pack had been buzzing with gossip, speculation, and more than a few cruel comments about their Alpha King's choice of mate. Are you sure about this? Mira asked as she stood in front of another mirror. this time in the ceremonial chambers where unmated wolves prepared for their bonding. Selene adjusted Mira's dress, white silk that draped elegantly over her curves, embroidered with silver threads that caught the light. "You look stunning." "I look like I'm about to be fed to the wolves." Mira's laugh held an edge of hysteria, which, I suppose, I am. "Stop it." Selene squeezed her shoulders. "Kieran loves you. The pack will accept you, and anyone who doesn't can answer to me." "Or to me," came a deep voice from the doorway. Mira turned to find Kieran standing there, resplendent in ceremonial armor that seemed more symbolic than functional. His amber eyes blazed as he looked at her. "You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony," Mira said. "Since when do I follow rules?" He crossed to her in 3 strides. "Besides, I needed to check on you. You were projecting anxiety through the mate bond so strongly I felt it across the compound." She blushed. The mate bond had been strengthening daily, allowing them to sense each other's emotions. It was comforting and terrifying in equal measure, nowhere left to hide. "I'm fine." "You're lying." He caught her hand, thumb brushing over her racing pulse. "Talk to me." Selene quietly excused herself, leaving them alone. Mira took a shaky breath. What if they reject me? Reject us? You're the Alpha King. You're supposed to choose a mate who strengthens the pack's image, who— "Stop!" Kieran's other hand cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Listen to me very carefully. I don't care what they think. You are my mate, my choice, my future Luna. Anyone who can't accept that can leave the pack. You can't just— I can, and I will." His voice held alpha command now, the weight of absolute authority. "I've spent 6 weeks watching you doubt yourself, fighting 3 years of insecurity that I helped create by making you feel you had to hide. No more. Tonight, in front of the whole pack, I'm claiming you. And if anyone has a problem with it, they can challenge me for the alpha position." Despite herself, Mira smiled. "You'd fight for me. I'd burn down the world for you." He said it so simply, so absolutely, that her breath caught. "Haven't you figured that out yet?" The ceremony was held under the full moon in the sacred grove, where pack rituals had been performed for generations. 200 wolves gathered, some supportive, many skeptical, a few openly hostile. Mira walked the aisle alone, as tradition demanded. She kept her chin high, refusing to let the whispers and stares make her falter. At the altar, Kieran waited, and when their eyes met, everything else faded. The elder began the ceremony, speaking of mate bonds and pack unity. Then came the moment Mira had been dreading, the public declaration. "Alpha King Kieran Blackthorn," the elder intoned, "before the pack and the moon, do you claim this woman as your mate and Luna?" "I do." Kieran's voice rang clear and certain. "Mira Thorne is my mate, my chosen one, the other half of my soul. I claim her now and forever. And do you, Mira Thorne, accept this claiming?" Mira opened her mouth to respond, but a voice cut through the ceremony. "I challenge this union." The crowd gasped. Kieran's eyes flashed dangerously as a wolf stepped forward. Marcus Gray, the former Alpha's beta who'd never accepted Kieran's rule. "On what grounds?" the elder asked sharply. "She's unfit to be Luna." Marcus's voice dripped with disdain. "Weak, unattractive, unable to represent the pack with dignity? The Alpha King deserves better." Rage exploded through Kieran. He moved to attack, but Mira's hand on his arm stopped him. "No," she said quietly. "Let me handle this." She turned to face Marcus and the pack, no longer hiding behind screens or sisters' photos. Just Mira in all her imperfect reality. "You're right," she said, and confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I'm not what you expected for a Luna. I don't fit your image of perfection, but let me tell you what I am." She stepped forward, addressing the pack with a strength she'd never known she possessed. "I'm a woman who knows what it's like to be dismissed and underestimated, who understands what it means to be invisible. and that means I see the invisible members of this pack. The Omegas doing thankless work, the elders put out to pasture, the young wolves who don't fit the mold. Her voice grew stronger. You want a Luna who looks pretty in photos? Fine, reject me. But if you want a Luna who will fight for every member of this pack, who will use her voice for those who've been silenced, who will stand beside your Alpha King with intelligence and strength, then I'm exactly what you need. Silence. Then, from the back of the crowd, someone started clapping, then another, then more. Not everyone, but enough. Kieran moved to her side, pride blazing in his eyes. Anyone else want to challenge my mate's fitness? Silence. Then as Alpha King, I declare this debate closed. He turned to the elder. Continue the ceremony. The elder smiled faintly. Very well. By the power vested in me and the blessing of the moon, I declare you mated. Alpha King, Kieran Blackthorn and Luna Mira Blackthorn, bound now and forever. Kieran pulled Mira into his arms and kissed her deeply, claiming her before the pack and moon. When they broke apart, he whispered against her lips, my Luna, my mate, my love. And for the first time, Mira believed it. Epilogue. 1 year later, Mira stood in the royal gardens, one hand resting on her swollen belly, watching Kieran work with young wolves on combat training, even pregnant, even clearly his mate, and Luna, she sometimes still couldn't believe this was her life. Luna Mira! Clara, a young Omega wolf, ran up with excitement bright in her eyes. I got accepted to university. The scholarship program you started, it worked. Joy bloomed in Mira's chest. The scholarship program for underrepresented pack members had been her first major initiative as Luna. Many had doubted it would work, but here was proof. I'm so proud of you, Clara. As the young wolf ran off, Kieran appeared at Mira's side, pulling her back against his chest. You're changing this pack, he murmured, making it better. We're changing it, she corrected. You gave me the platform. You gave me the courage to be better. He pressed a kiss to her temple. Did I tell you today that I love you? Only 3 times. You're slacking. He laughed and spun her gently to face him. I love you 4 times now. Mira cupped his face, seeing the man she'd fallen in love with through text messages and the man who'd chosen her despite everything. They were the same person, flawed, honest, hers. I love you too, she whispered, even though you're terrible about answering texts now that we live together. Why would I text when I have the real you in my arms every night? He kissed her softly. Though I do miss your perfectly punctuated messages. I miss the mystery, she teased. Now you're just the Alpha King who leaves his socks on the floor. And you're just the Luna who reads in bed with the light on when she knows I'm trying to sleep. Just? She raised an eyebrow. That sounds like a complaint, Alpha King. Never. His hands splayed across her belly, feeling their child kick. You're everything. My mate, my love, my Luna, the mother of my child and the keeper of my heart. There's nothing just about you. Tears pricked her eyes. Happy ones this time. 3 years ago, I never could have imagined this. Being here, being happy, being seen. 3 years ago, I was waiting for a mate who looked like a fantasy, Kieran said. Thank the moon she had the courage to show up as herself instead. Even though I lied. Especially because you lied. He kissed her again. It forced us both to be honest about what really matters. Not photos or pretenses, but truth. The hard, vulnerable, beautiful truth of who we really are. Around them, pack life continued. Wolves who'd once mocked her now bowed respectfully as their Luna. Children who'd been taught to judge based on appearance were learning different values. It wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still prejudices to overcome. But they were facing them together, openly, honestly, exactly as they were. Later that evening, as Mira settled into bed with a book, Kieran's phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it and laughed. "What?" Mira asked. He showed her the screen. A message from her, sent from across the room. "I love you, even though you steal all the blankets." She grinned. "Old habits." He typed back, "I love you too, blanket-stealing Luna of my heart." Some things, they'd discovered, were better said in text, not because they were hiding, but because words on a screen had started their journey. It seemed fitting to honor that beginning even as they built their future. Mira set aside her book and moved into Kieran's arms, feeling complete in a way she'd never imagined possible. She'd catfished the Alpha King and found her mate, had lied about her appearance and discovered truth, had hidden behind insecurity and found strength. The moon, it turned out, did know what it was doing after all. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this story about finding love when you dare to show up as yourself. Sometimes our greatest vulnerabilities become our greatest strengths when we find someone who sees us clearly and loves us anyway. What did you think about Mira and Kieran's journey? Have you ever felt like hiding your true self? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next story. Love, Lyra.